Hello, hello. Thank you for joining me in my studies today. This is my final day reading favorite quotes from Book 14, Alan Watts, The Meaning of Happiness. I've included a link in the notes in the case that you'd like to see more details about the book. The Buddha's teaching is unique in its utter lack of theology. It concentrates wholly on the necessity of arriving at a personal, immediate experience and dispenses with the doctrinal symbol of that experience. In this respect, it is the only truly psychological religion. It is a mistake to say that the Buddha denied the existence of any kind of God or soul. These were subjects he simply refused to discuss on the grounds that mere talking and mere belief were not conducive to enlightenment. One thing do I teach, he said, dukkha and deliverance from dukkha. It is usually translated suffering and deliverance from suffering. The wheel of birth and death is indeed the squirrel cage of man's unhappiness, pursuing himself in order to escape from himself. It is like a bar revolving on its center. The more you push against one end of it, the more it revolves. In terms of practical psychology, this means that there is no actual distinction between our ordinary everyday experience and the experience of nirvana or spiritual freedom. But for some people, this experience is binding, and for others, liberating. And the problem is to achieve what the Lankavatara calls that turning about in the deepest seat of consciousness, which effects the transformation. Buddhism is very much a philosophy and a psychology of the moment. For if we are asked what life is, and if our answer is to be a practical demonstration and not a theory, we can do no better than point to the moment now. It is in the moment that we find reality and freedom, for acceptance of life is acceptance of the present moment now and at all times. Acceptance of the moment is allowing the moment to live, which indeed is another way of saying that it is to allow life to live, to be what it is now. Thus, to allow this moment of experience and all that it contains, freedom to be as it is, to come in its own time, to go in its own time. This is to allow the moment, which is what we are now, to set us free. It is to realize that life, as expressed in the moment, has always been setting us free from the very beginning, whereas we have chosen to ignore it and try to achieve that freedom by ourselves. Page 162. Wu Wei means non-doing simply in the sense that by no action of our own can we bring ourselves into harmony with Tao. For, as we have seen, the secret of this harmony in the moment is not action, but acceptance of a harmony already achieved by Tao itself. We do not alter the actual situation, but our attitude toward it undergoes a change whereby we feel harmony, where before we felt discord. Non-duality, or total acceptance, defies all intellectual description, being a condition of the spirit having no opposite with which it may be contrasted and so understood. Enlightenment, according to a Zen teacher, is your everyday thought. 167. Trying to explain Zen is like trying to catch wind in a box. The moment you shut the lid, it ceases to be wind, and in time becomes stagnant air. The free man walks straight ahead. He has no hesitations, never looks behind, for he knows that there's nothing in the future and nothing in the past that can shake his freedom. Freedom does not belong to him. It is no more his property than the wind. And as he does not possess it, he is not possessed by it. We are so used to symbols and doctrines, so cluttered up with the mere images of wisdom which the ages have handed down, with the names of the God whose self remains unseen, that when someone points directly to the experience itself, we are taken aback and cannot believe our eyes. This is the more so when that which is pointed out is something lying right under our noses, and which ordinarily we are too proud to consider. Those who search for happiness do not find it because they do not understand that the object of their search is the seeker. To be free, man must see himself in life as a whole, not as active power and passive instrument, but as two aspects of a single activity. Between those two aspects, there may be harmony or conflict, but conflict itself may also proceed from that single activity. Thus, man's experience becomes whole when he sees the activity of life as a whole in himself as he is now. When he realizes that there is no difference between his own thoughts and actions as they are at this moment and the nature of the universe. The ego and the unconscious, man and nature, oneself and life, are seen as the two dancers who move in such close accord that it is impossible to say which moves and which responds, which is the active partner and which the passive. This becomes love when it enables us to see that God does not depart from us, even when we are sinful men. Man's acceptance of grace is one and the same act as God's giving of it. Man's free choice does not precede the action of grace, nor does it follow it, and it cannot be said that the initiative comes from either side. The two acts occur simultaneously because they are two aspects of the same process. Man's ascent to God is God's descent to man. At each moment, the mystic accepts the whole of his experience, including himself as he is, his circumstances as they are, and the relationship between them as it is. Wholeness is his key word. His acceptance is total, and he excludes no part of his experience, however unsavory it may be. As soon as you let life live you, you discover that you are living life with an altogether new fullness and zest. The free man has the feeling of an unchanging center in himself, a center which is not exactly in his ego and not exactly in life, nature, or the unconscious as independent of the ego. It is the middle of the dance, the point around which the two partners revolve and in which they realize union. He is free because the center makes him feel absolutely secure and at home in the universe. He can take it anywhere, make it do anything, for, as Lao Tzu says of the Tao, using it, he finds it inexhaustible. Food makes it possible to sacrifice the freedom to be immoral, in the realization that immorality and sin are petty and tedious. In a universe where freedom of the spirit offers such gigantic possibilities, sin is a simple waste of time. The free man is moral because he wants to be, not because he thinks he ought to be moral. Without gratitude, morality is a mere discipline which keeps human society in a relatively stable condition until such time as men learn the freedom of love. Realization has done its work when one's very life becomes an expression of gratitude. And this is the greatest happiness. For the meaning of happiness consists in three elements: freedom, gratitude, and the sense of wonder. The great illumination is the state of consciousness you have at this moment. And it is recognized as such only when you cease to run away from it. Give it freedom to reveal itself. And having found freedom in so unexpected a place, you will be filled with gratitude and then with wonder. I have enjoyed all of Alan Watts' books that I have read, and I, at this point, have read most of them. This experience of reading Alan Watts' The Meaning of Happiness, especially after having explored his works so thoroughly, has left quite an impression on my heart, because in every page I recollected that he was 24 when he wrote this, and it really established, rooted, and then expanded my own sense of wonder in what he shared through this book. I highly, highly recommend it. I look forward to sharing with you what I've chosen to feature as book 15. As soon as I have chosen that, I will share it on social media. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you tomorrow.